welcome to the Kolbecast, episode 258. Thank you for joining us. Today, Bonnie and I are joined by Dee-dee and Krysten Pizzurro. Many homeschooling parents long for a group to support their homeschooling activities. Prayer, service, and activities with other families can be extremely valuable to support the important work being done in the home. Dee-dee and Krysten both have experience in organizing homeschooling groups. We draw from their experience to find out what works well and the pitfalls to avoid in organizing or guiding these groups. We hope that you'll enjoy the show.
Hi there, I'm Bonnie, Kolbe homeschooling mom of 4 lads and lasses, liturgical musician, popcorn, and podcast fanatic.
And this is Stephen, homeschooling father of 5 and director of development for Kolbe Academy.
One of our primary goals for the Kolbecast is to get glimpses into how families make Kolbe offerings and home education work for them. And as we've seen, there are a lot of ways to do that. I'd say the vast majority of parents and students we've talked to on the Kolbecast have mentioned their involvement in activities and groups alongside their Kolbe studies. In some places, there is an abundance of opportunities for students who aren't on a typical brick and mortar schedule to participate in lessons, sports, groups, and the like. In other places, not so much. Either way, many Kolbe families find great value in belonging to groups that form around common interests or needs outside of their Kolbe studies. Perhaps others are looking for a group like that and might even be getting a nudge to form one themselves. So today we're welcoming back 2 Kolbe moms who have a lot of wisdom and experience in forming and running groups of homeschoolers. We met Mrs. Dee-dee and her husband Charlie in episode 214, A Long View. Hi, Dee-dee. Great to see you again.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Of course, it's great to see you again and visit with you. Really enjoyed the first time we got to visit with you. I'm very glad for another opportunity. And back with us for, I'm not sure what number this is now, Mrs. Krysten Pizzurro is a Kolbe mom and academic advisor who has contributed to several Kolbecast conversations at this point. Hi, Krysten.
Hi, it's good to be back.
It's great to have you back. It's great to have you back. So just to set the stage a little bit for the conversation that we're having today, we want to know how you both integrate Kolbe studies with these groups. Each of you runs or has played a major role in the formation and operation of big groups of homeschoolers. So we want to know how that works, but that is separate from your Kolbe studies and in both of your experiences. So we want to hear kind of how you make all that work and all. But to start off with, Deedee, for those folks who hadn't yet listened to episode 214, which we will link in our show notes, tell us a little bit about you and your family.
Sure. So I'm a mother of 5, and we homeschooled with Kolbe from kindergarten through high school, the end of high school, all 5 children. We explored a couple of different options before we chose Kolbe, but it didn't take us long to land on Kolbe and then make a commitment, and it was just a phenomenal choice for us. We moved a lot before we settled in Connecticut 20 years ago. So the only one that's really been in Connecticut his whole life is my youngest, who is now a senior at University of Dallas. And so, and then when we moved to Connecticut 21 years ago, there really wasn't an established group that was meeting as often as we needed, which is why we established a different kind of homeschool group here.
Okay. Very interesting. I want to hear more about that. We're considering the Mahalik family. All y'all are friends of the Kolbecast. We have talked to you and your husband, Charlie. Your son, Charlie, has been on a few episodes. Your daughter, Dolores, has been on a few times as a guest and as a co-host, and she teaches for Kolbe and so forth. So very much friends of the Kolbecast and of Kolbe Academy. Thankful for all you have contributed to the school all these years. So Krysten, remind us about you, please.
Absolutely. I just want to say I'm kind of fangirling a little bit because my 4th grader has Dolores currently as a teacher, and my oldest did drama with her last year, and big fans in this house. So, yeah. So I'm also a mom of 5. I love that. My oldest is actually only a junior though this year, so I'm kind of in the thick of it. And then the youngest is a preschooler, and we live on a military base, and I have had the privilege and honor to run the homeschool group that we have on this base twice, and I've filled other positions in there. It's the largest homeschool group on a military base in the nation. So it's pretty big. There's about 200 kids in it, about 78 families. So it's big, and it's a lot of fun, and it's fills a need that many just don't, right? Like you're looking for that outside of the curriculum type of thing. And in some cases, how to supplement some of the curriculum that you're doing. So that's what our group does a lot of, and it's a lot of fun. And I'm sad if I ever have to move from this area.
Both of these sound really neat and interesting. What we want to distinguish between today is as the groups that provide all sorts of activities and enrichment and sort of some curriculum in some respects, but not the Kolbe curriculum per se. However, I will include in our show notes a link to a section of the Kolbe website that can put people in touch with folks if they're interested in using Kolbe in a school or co-op setting. So having said all that, Deedee, would you describe the group that you and your family have been involved in, how it came to be, and how you all made it work with your Kolbe studies separately?
Sure. So we came from Virginia, as I said, where there's basically a homeschooler like in every other house. Outside the DC area, it just seemed like everybody knew about Catholic homeschooling. It was solidly like, it was just amazing, to an area where it was less so. And it's less there's less pockets of, well, in any case, there was not the opportunity to walk into a homeschooling support group. My husband and I were from backgrounds where we were both, active in our high school extracurricular activities. We knew the importance of, and we both met in college in Philadelphia. And we both came from a very education is so important, and also the roundedness of your experience, opportunities for children to lead as well as to follow, as well as to understand what it's like to be on a team and how to cooperate. And no matter how many children you have, it's really not the same as having a multi-family kind of exposure to, this is how a group runs. This is what my God-given gifts are. This is what I can lead. Where can I do this? And so that's what we wanted to offer to our children. And we found that people really were looking for that in this area. So we established a group based, the backbone of the group were the shelter brown bag lunch programs. And I mention this because it's really important to have a focus on prayer and a focus on the corporal works of mercy. We felt like that's why the group has lasted 20 years, is because our backbone is every time we meet, we are beginning and ending with prayer, stopping at 3:00 for the rosary or the divine mercy, stopping for the Angelus. If you don't have that, what is the point? What is the point to compromise on the liturgical year? We're not going to do that. So this is an authentically Catholic group. We don't apologize for that. And we also welcome people of other faiths, but we do not really allow for kind of an opting out of our prayer life. And so we've managed to keep it, an authentically Catholic group. And I think that that's really important, obviously, because I mentioned it. But so Brown Bag Lunch Program is where we found in Virginia we had the Little Flowers of the, I'm sure you know the Little Flowers program. The Little Flowers program is where girls study a saint and associated virtue each month. And we wanted to do something to outreach to the soup kitchen in Virginia. Well, you're not allowed to go into a soup kitchen unless you're a certain age, unless you sign a gazillion million forms. So we established a brown bag lunch program. We were making 50 brown bag lunches with an exact what was going in each lunch bag. The kids did everything. It was assembly line. The families brought the meats and whatever had to go into those brown bag lunches. And then we could do it. We could have everyone participate. So the youngest hands would be decorating the bags. And then it would go to the assembly line where the oldest kids would be assembling the sandwiches. And then we established that. We did that 1 month in Virginia for the Little Flowers. But this was such a great program, and it was such a great process that we continued that every month in Virginia. So when we moved from Virginia to Connecticut, we were like, oh, we've got to do this program. So we established this program. The Catholic school homeschool group that was here wasn't really interested in that. So we started just doing it out of the back of our car, saying anybody that wants to bring 10 lunches made like this with your family, from your family, we'll bring them to the brown bag lunch centers or the homeless shelters. So it began like that, brown bag lunches. And then it was let's do little flowers. They weren't really interested in the little flowers, so we said, okay, well, we'll just run the little flowers out of our home. And so it started in our home, and we had so many families joining that 20 years later, we're 110 families, I think. And
Wow.
we're up to over 50 activities, all extracurricular activities. So on first Friday, it's always brown bag lunches. This year, I think it's the Illuminations, which is a Catholic-centered writing program, or not. It's not so much a curriculum. It's creative writing. We have the winter dance. We've got the family fall ball, but we are not a co-op. We don't consider ourselves a co-op because we do not let people drop kids off ever. This is family. So your whole family comes, except for the whoever is the breadwinner, and you participate as a family, because we have found that the mothers and fathers, whoever is the educator at home, needs the support of other adults doing this. It's hard to be Catholic. It's even harder to be Catholic, and I think almost impossible to do it alone. And then to homeschool on top of that, oh my goodness. So without that support, and then, what's beautiful about having the whole family there is that a child who is 5 is so different than the other child there that's 5. One child might prefer to hang out with the 3-year-olds. One 5-year-old might prefer to hang out with the 8-year-olds. Everybody's at a different level. And that integration of generations, so beautiful. And then when the grandparents show up too, oh my gosh, it's beautiful to watch the teenagers holding the babies of other families. And so you don't just get to know your child's friends, you get to know the whole family. And it's really a beautiful and very supportive thing to see. And the way this is integrated beautifully with Kolbe is that Kolbe tends to have a lighter Friday schedule. And so we do all our activities on, not all of them, but most of them are on Fridays. So first Friday has a list of activities. Second Friday has a list of activities. Third Friday is usually this year. It is mostly field trips, unless there's a drama going on, because we are huge into drama. Because again, our family was always about, what's the story here? Tell the story. And with Kolbe that's totally an extension of Kolbe, because we used to take the Catholic readers. Oh my gosh, what a fantastic program. So my kids used to stand up at noon, and they would learn how to read in front of the other kids, from the Catholic reader, because quite honestly, they couldn't get to all of the questions and writing them down, because there's an awful lot of questions. I'm sorry.
Right.
But the curriculum asks for an awful lot of questions to be handwritten. And some of my kids just had trouble writing all those questions out. So they would answer them orally. And it was always story time. Lunch was story time, but it would also be appropriate, like standing up, how you stand when you read publicly, how you hold your book, your inflection, everything, God's the great storyteller, right? Jesus. And just to emphasize that means you're elevating that at being a storyteller. And so then drama naturally comes into that, right? It extends from that. Our drama program's huge. We have a June musical with over 100 kids on the stage. We've done that. This is our 20th year doing a June musical. It's just so much fun. We always say we choose the drama according to whether or not the Holy Family could be sitting in the front row and happy and laughing about what they're seeing on stage. But we're in the middle of our Live Stations of the Cross. So this is we took Live Stations of the Cross also from what we were doing in Virginia, and we have been doing it every year. The Live Stations of the Cross, it's incredibly reverent. It's narrated. And then we have the June musical. Then we have the fall high school drama. They just did Cheaper by the Dozen. The first thing God did was create. So why wouldn't we elevate the arts? The clubs and activities for the children, for the families, and then for the parents. It's just, it's really been the way I could get through homeschooling.
Yeah. Amazing. So where does it meet then? Like, do you have like a primary base? I would imagine like theater.
We do. We have a primary base of one of the local parishes has adopted us for the last 5 years. That's been a problem. Every time a pastor changes, it's whether or not the pastor likes kids or not, whether or not the pastor can swallow us crazy homeschoolers. And we are crazy. And, I often say the fact that a homeschooling group can last even 2 years is a testament to the faith, because you've got, number one, a bunch of headstrong parents right there
Right.
because they've chosen to homeschool, which is against the grain, and everyone's got their opinion, and it's just like, whoa. So it's very amazing that you can get a group to last that long. And, over the years, our guidelines have grown and grown and grown, because not because we want more rules, but because things happen and you learn from them, and you try to maneuver through them. Just because you're homeschooled, just because you have a gazillion kids, just because you're trying to live a Catholic life does not mean you have anything else in common. And so it's just it's a learning experience. And you have to keep getting back to prayer, back to the corporal and spiritual works of mercy. And if that is not the backbone of your group, I don't know how you manage. And so we offer a lot. We offer it all really up to God.
So have you all formed like basically a nonprofit organization? Do you have like a board and all that over the years?
That has been a common question, and we have not, because we are a loosely connected group of Catholic families who homeschool, and we can't even say Catholic because the Archdiocese owns the rights to that word. And so the name is crazy because of having to meet all these regulations, educating at least one child predominantly in the home in a Catholic tradition.
Okay.
And we are not a nonprofit. That has hindered our ability to accept contributions, but it has kept us away from the board situation. We do have an advisory panel, and we have a general coordinator. We are not a nonprofit.
Gotcha. Okay. Families join for like a year, or do they kind of join based on what activity they want to do? Like if they want to be in the
that's
play
a good question. So we have a membership every summer. People send in a membership fee.
Okay.
Our membership fees are, I think, $60 for the year for one family. It's not by child. Or if you're joining for the first year. After that, I think it's gone up to $120 for the whole year. We try to keep it really reasonable. People are very generous with contributing towards different activities. And we just keep it really, but if they want to do the June musical, there's an additional family fee of $40. But we supply everything. Costumes it's just, we've tried to keep it reasonable. And then if you can't afford it, we have a fund to help people that can afford it. But you have to sign up at the beginning of over the summer, and then you're supposed to contribute by volunteering throughout the year, but you do not have to attend every Friday. And we do have as I said, guidelines. The first thing that'll destroy a homeschooling group is the modesty guideline. That's what I found. In Virginia, I've seen that. And then it destroyed a group here. It's like you don't want to touch that. I don't know if you found that in your groups, but there's a very strong opinions about modesty. And we do have modesty guidelines that are you didn't ask this question, but I'm going to tell you, because it really hurts homeschool groups when, in Virginia, for example, there was a homeschool group that insisted that everybody wear skirts, and that pants for women was the great evil. And so that really destroyed one group, and then that group had their own guidelines, and people that wanted that went their way. For us, our modesty guidelines are no words across the bottom, no yoga pants, very kind of like modest. Basically, I think it gets back to, and we haven't written this down, but if your shadow is the same when you're dressed or undressed, that's inappropriate.
Well, that's a good way to
like
put
that.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Certainly the longevity of that group, you'll have found ways to simplify. You have worked through issues over a long period of time that if things come up, they just do, people being who they are. Things come up, and when you have such a loose group of folks, how do you come together over, and how do you navigate all those sorts of things? So all of that's very interesting and relevant.
It is very interesting. Over the years, we've had to say no corporal punishment in front at any of our meetings. There's whatever you do at home. That is not, that's why we also don't ask about, like, this is a great opportunity for us to share what we do curriculum wise when we come together.
Yeah.
But we don't let people proselytize to other faiths. We don't let corporal punishment happen at our meetings. There's no foul language. And usually there's absolutely no electronics. Like,
Okay.
you're not allowed electronics. And parents can't come to a meeting and work on their computer. That's unacceptable. We're supposed to be present for
Okay.
our families and for others so that we can all do this together. It is hard when you get together with a group of people, and especially, toddlers who are learning boundaries, and you've got teenagers who are learning boundaries.
Right.
So you've got all these things going on. We all have to be present. We're all honestly, you have to come to these meetings understanding that everyone is just trying to do their best and be very charitable, but in a Benedictine way where we're coming together to steer all of us towards this faith. So you're welcome into our rhythm, but that means you will adopt also our prayer life, and also our guidelines, which are grounded in charity.
Okay. So when new family joins, does a parent come and, I mean, as you said, everyone helps. So do they select from, I'll help in this area or that, or I want to bring this new activity to your
That's
group,
what's
or
beautiful. It changes every year according to the talents of the people coming in. And so we have this woman that's on fire with a love for math. Go figure. I don't get it. But her presentation at the parent meeting, everybody wanted to join her group because, oh my gosh, that sounds like a lot of fun. She just is really, and so she has brought this life, this new club, math club. Really, that seems like it doesn't work, math and club. But it works, and and she is alive with it. And then we've got a number of lawyers that have joined, like parents who have a law background. So the civics club has really taken off in the past couple of years. We've always done mock trials, but they have it's really taken off because there's such an interest. And then we used to have someone in the group that was an engineer, so they really loved the Lego robotics club. So it waxes and wanes. The one thing that seems to have really been steady, and we're attracting a lot of talented parents, is the drama club. So we've had a professional ballerina that does the choreography. We have a professional singer that has come to lead to do the choir training. And now we have someone else that's joined who is really developing the choir again. So yes, it's both. One is, these are the established things that we need help with. Would you like to help in these areas? The other is, what do you want to do? What are your strengths? We have an incredible artist now that's working on set design for the June musical. And we have, one or two moms that love spreadsheets. Really, they just love spreadsheets. Actually, one of them is my oldest daughter, Catherine, and she's joined with her children, the homeschool group that we used to, and she actually established the drama group 20 years ago, and now she's directing. So that's really cool. That's very cool to see. But she is a lover of spreadsheets, and so there is a place for that. There is a place for every talent. We can, and if you tell us you have a talent, chances are we'll create something
right.
that you could do.
Thank you so much. Sure. Sounds good.
This is I just love these ideas, especially I like how your distinction of co-op, where it could mean a lot of different things. So I like that you don't use that. This is your group, which can be a lot of different things and not have that sort of immediate like baggage of, this is my view of what a co-op does. This is our group. This is how we operate. This is what we do. And I love the distinctions, because I remember getting into homeschooling as well and thinking, a lot of the co-ops or groups that I was seeing, it's like, okay, you seem to be combining all of the worst parts of being in a brick and mortar school with and losing all the advantages of the customization of your curriculum, because they were picking people to teach the classes. And it's like, well, these people aren't qualified teachers, but they're there, and it was a mess. But this seems exactly what you need as a homeschooler, to build on that community, build on the strengths you don't have. Like you're saying, everything you're saying, it's just perfect. I wish everybody could have one of these groups in their area.
Yep. It really does sound neat. Do you find that you're able, like your robotics team, do you also do sports teams as part of your group?
So we do have we have a turkey bowl, which is really well attended. The Turkey Bowl is obviously the football game that happens on the Friday after Thanksgiving.
Fun.
We do have teams that meet, or not teams, but we don't have organized sports teams.
Okay.
What we do have is, for example, this summer we have couple of alumni guys that want to come back and do flag football for the 5th, 6th, and 7th-year-olds.
Oh, fun.
7-year-olds, or 7th graders, excuse me. And they'll organize that for July. And then we have people who want to do volleyball, or people who want to, but it's loose. It's not an organized sport, or it meets, like we used to have a Frisbee team. We used to have a soccer playing all the time on a certain Friday. It all depends on if there's a dad available or a mom available that wants to do that. We also have a family picnic where we do competitive, like the push-up contest is an annual thing that's people train for. We have the the loose field games, the field day games, but we do not have regular sports. That's a challenge. And I know my boys had to, our town would not let them just do sports. And so they ended up doing the club rugby, and they had to look elsewhere and then John did, he did 6 days a week of classical ballet. So they have to look elsewhere for their athletics.
Okay.
That's an unfortunate thing, but
but you can kind of see with the one, just on the Fridays, the Friday get-togethers, that doing sports would also be difficult.
That sounds ideal, though. The ones that you offer and just the setup of them, that sounds very ideal. You're not kind of like going every which way and whatever. Okay, Krysten, tell us about your group and how all that works and how you make that work with Kolbe.
Oh, it's Deedee so hard to follow. Okay. Okay. So our group is secular, but I walked into this group. So this group was started on the military base in the 90s. DC is not a great place to send your kid to school. And so when you are stationed here, not of your own will, but by the military, you look for ways to connect. And so this is a group of parents who are looking for ways to help their children find community, because also when you are a military family, you find that when you move to other places, there are families who don't move, who are not military, who put up walls and will say, you're going to move. I'm not going to put in any effort to be your friend. And they do that to both the parents and the children. And so military families tend to seek very strongly bonds that someone understands what they're going through. When their dad deploys, and our base is a heavy deployable area because this is the language center. So many people come, they learn a language, and sometimes just dad deploys or just mom deploys and everybody else stays behind. So everybody's just really looking for connection. I don't discount or doubt at all the need and the absolute foundation should be prayer. That just doesn't happen to be this group. Unfortunately, we do have, so on and off of the last 10 years that I've lived here, we've had a Catholic homeschooling group that my friend calls it spoons. I only have so many spoons to be able to do all the things. So running both the homeschool group and then trying to also run the Catholic homeschoolers, where we met once a month and we would do mass together, and then the priest would come with us and we would do a potluck lunch and some kind of lesson on, whatever we were doing for the month. Sometimes it was the rosary together. Sometimes it was St. Joseph's table, whatever it is, to just kind of bring our faith to the forefront. Like I said, right now in this season, I don't have enough spoons to do all of that. Sure. But I did run Little Flowers for many years here on base and found that was a great need. And it gave me the opportunity, not that I'm tooting my own horn because it's all Holy Spirit, but families who are not Catholic, because I can offer it to the secular group and say, hey, this is a Catholic program. I'm going to run it, but I'm going to run it Catholic. So just know that if you're going to come into my home, that's how I'm not going to change the requirements. That's what this is going to be. But I've had several families convert just based on the curriculum of Little Flowers, and just beautiful witness to the power of the Holy Spirit and the power of just being open to living the faith. So our group is also not a co-op. It is a collection of parents that come together to do extracurriculars for their families. So you pay into the year, and the year gives you access to the group. You are expected to do, like, we have a nominal amount of volunteer hours, and that can be fulfilled in so many different ways. You don't have to teach a class. You don't even have to, you can say, hey, I go to the park on Fridays. Would anybody like to join me? And, you can get an hour for the time you play at the park with another family and that kind of thing. So just trying to encourage people to use their talents and find their place in this community is a lot of it. So we've a couple of moms right now that are organizing. They've done labs the last couple of years. So biology last year, chemistry this year. They have to do it for their high schoolers, and they just didn't want to do it alone. So found a couple of others, and we've been blessed with a house that the base has let us use. So it's a homeschool house, and it's on base. It's a 3-bedroom, and we have different classrooms that, we designate, and you can kind of reserve the house for your class or whatever it is. We have outside teachers. So we have one Taekwondo teacher. Before Taekwondo was an official Olympic sport, she won a medal in it. There's a movie made after. It's really cool.
Wow.
Anyway, so she comes every Wednesday and has for the entire 10 years that I've been here to teach Taekwondo to families, and it, not just kids, adults too can also, learn Taekwondo, and that's pretty fun.
That's great.
We have a piano teacher. We've had art teachers in the past. So we do have paths for, if you're like, I really am looking for this for my student, would anybody else be interested? Because then I can search out a teacher that we can get base access for. And so we've had that in the past. We've had tennis lessons and things like that. New in the last 2 years is our theater program. It is a big draw. I'm the director.
Krysten
So
does it, yes.
my kids I absolutely see the value of drama. I think there is something to be said about learning how to tell a story, not just the story, but how to be a genuinely good storyteller. And so both my husband and I were involved in drama in high school through college, and my oldest started seeking out drama opportunities. And I thought, well, I have a little bit more control if I kind of get to pick the shows and get to help guide students. And so I've been doing that for the last 2 years, and it's been wonderful and beautiful, and being able to guide other students is awesome.
So do you all have like a board? Are you like, how do you kind of like govern yourselves?
We do. We have a board because we have to ask permission on a military base to operate as a group. And so in order to have that permission, you have to have a governing board.
Okay.
So we have a board, we have bylaws and a constitution, but we're not a non-for-profit. We're not an official co-op. Like, we're not registered with the IRS because that's not how our group runs. But we do have a board, and we do have rules that we have to go by. We even have, so you have modesty rules. I totally know what you mean, because I live in this area where it's a big deal if you talk about modesty issues, but we've had to come up with like a code of conduct for behavior, because even if you're not talking an all Christian group, or especially not an all Catholic group, swearing is not something that you want happening in your families. And so just kind of having basic behavior code of conduct has been something that's come up recently in the last year for us. So yeah, we have a board, and the board votes, and every family gets a vote on major things, but you could run for board positions. And so that's how I was director twice, and webmaster, and whatever else I've done.
Whatever else needs doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do families who participate, do they need, are they same thing like with Deedee's group? Here are the areas where we need help, or if you want to lead something, but either way, one of the parents in the family is somehow involved. Is that how that works? Okay.
Yeah. So we require that they do a certain number of we call them every member must participate hours.
Okay.
And they can do that in many different ways. So we say, hey, what are your talents? Here are the classes that we've had in the past. Here are the things that they're asking for. Is there anything on here that you'd be interested in? Or, we could talk about different ways to do that. And that could be, hey, this teacher needs to teach, but she's a toddler. Could you watch the toddler while she teaches?
Okay.
And it works for that. So just different ways, lots of different families. And we tell people, you could do a class that's one semester, a full year, a pop-up class. I just want to do one class on how to knit a scarf. Okay, great. Like,
Yeah.
sounds like a plan.
Okay.
That kind of thing. So yeah, it's not required that you teach a class. It's not required that you do events, but just somehow participating in making the group better.
So then how do you organize your school days, in quotes, like your Kolbe, like the days you're not doing group? Do you have a day devoted to your group, or is it kind of mixed, commingled with your academic, your Kolbe stuff?
So that's kind of the beauty of the group and the challenge is that the teacher of whatever class, club, whatever it is, gets to choose the date and time that works best for their family. So I set, like, my theater is always on Tuesdays because it's the only day of the week I can do it with everybody else's stuff that they've got going on. And so I set the date and the time, and those who can do it make it happen or not. So there are classes that happen in the mornings during the week, and not one of my kids can go, and that's okay. When we first got here, it was hard. Get feedback from parents. They're like, do you worry about socialization? And I'm like, you know what? We over socialize. And if I could pull back, I really would. Like, we do too many things. So I've started to realize that I just can't do all the things, and that what they do well, and they have fun, and they see plenty of people. So we don't do anything in the morning, even if it sounds amazing. And I just make sure that all of their courses are done in the morning. And then, like, we have one class this year that's in the afternoon, and it just kind of sealed the deal for me that we can't do afternoon classes
Yeah.
because that's when our activities are. And my kids are competitive swimmers, so they club swim. And that's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday deal. And so we have to leave the house, by 4, and Thursday is the scouts. So we're busy.
Lots. Okay.
It's really interesting. I mean, both of you were different things, different communities that are being served, but you can see each one has that purpose. So did you immediately said, okay, we're service, we're prayer, these are our fundamentals, and Kristen is like, okay, we've got this group who families coming and going, they need support of other people who understand, so it's really interesting to see how it takes on that sort of the charism, I guess, the charisms that are needed for the particular group. So I mean, yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really curious because I am part of a team that helps manage a community-based robotics group. Deedee mentioned the first robotics. People know that we're a robotics family here, and that is a community-based organization. So we've got public, private, homeschool kids from all over our metro region. They're in that. So there's a team of us who manages that, and yes, it has now become a 501c3, and we board and all that, and so that's been a new thing. So I'm sort of like on that logistical side, and that's kind of where my curiosity goes next, is some of the organizational and logistical and planning aspects just of managing these groups, many of which have already been covered as each of you has been describing your group. I'm wondering if folks are kind of hearing this and thinking, this is what I've been looking for. I might need to start one of these myself, because we don't have one here. But so, like, getting one off the ground, what kind of lead time would you think? Would you think of it that way? Like, I need this much time to get this group started, or do you come at it more from, here's what I want to do with my group. I want to make sandwiches and take them to the homeless shelter, and you start there. Like, what would you recommend? Deedee, how about I start with you? What would you recommend to someone who is thinking, how do I get one of these organized?
Sure. I would say, and to the point that was already made, what works for your family? The thing that's going to be most successful is what you enjoy and what works for your family, because ultimately what works for your family is the number one thing. What does your family need? What do they enjoy? So I would start there and start small with, that is what I'm going to lead, and I will invite others to join me. And then you pray a lot about the success and the path that your energies will take, and then you see if it grows. And we started Little Flowers and that sandwich program, and we had like one other family with us doing it. And then I said, okay, now I have boys, so I'm going to do Little Flowers and I'm going to do Blue Nights. And then Little Flowers, Blue Nights, and then I had a baby, so I created Cherubs. And then we created, we did Pilgrims of the Holy Family as my children grew up. And so then it developed, so that then the whole family had something to do when they got there. And we were also doing sandwiches that month. Then another family joined, said, I want to do this. Well, what if we do every Friday? And what if that next Friday we do this? And then we'll do drama on fourth Friday. We'll do field trips. I think the most successful groups are the ones that grow organically from the talents that present themselves, as long as you remain open to the people that are presenting. One of the really important things to me, and I think this goes to another point that was made, when we moved from Virginia to Connecticut, it was March. There was an established girls group in our town that was a Catholic. It was actually a Catholic Opus Dei group. I had a 10-year-old. It was the perfect age to join that group. They said no, because there was already a good rhythm with that group of people. I'm like, are you kidding me? My 10-year-old is moving to a new town, and you don't want to hurt the rhythm of I didn't say this to them, but I made a commitment that any group that I was going to start would welcome people no matter when they're moving into town, or whether they're going to be here for 3 days or plan to be here for the next 30 years. I mean, that was just, it sounds like a criticism of that group, but it really hurt. It hurt my daughter. It hurt our transition. So our group was going to be a little bit different, and they had every right to do that, but our group was going to be structured differently. And now we've reached a point actually where we have to keep telling ourselves we cannot meet the needs of everyone that's out there, because now there are more and more families where both parents work, or where there's single parent. This group is not good for that, because you have to be present with your children. We are not babysitting anybody's children. We can't do it. That's not the way this group can survive. And so we have to insist that for our activities, they are not drop off. You must be there. One parent at least must be there, and they cannot be working. And so that's been a hard thing to swallow. But I think if you're beginning a group, you have to commit to what's best for your family. Just like you said, the day, time, the structure, the thing that's best for your family. And then you have to keep revisiting, what is the point of what I am doing? What is the point of what I am doing? And pray a lot.
Okay. Kristen, what sorts of logistical and other advice would you have on this area? And I mean, maybe even speaking from starting up this drama section or anything else relating, because it sounds like if you're not all meeting on the same day each week, like on Fridays, then you have to have some way of communicating. I heard you mention webmaster. Like, how are you all keeping in touch if everyone's all together every week or at some point?
Yeah, there's a great little company called Homeschool Life, and they run websites. So we pay for that subscription to be able to run basically a calendar and a forum and it's class matrix. So that's how people sign up for classes. I think definitely having a purpose statement and continuing to reevaluate that is definitely the way to like begin a group. And then realizing that you don't need to do it all by yourself. So if you're trying to start a group and you have maybe some interest from other families, and just saying, okay, let's get together and let's talk about logistically how we can work together to divide up, whatever we need to do to find a meeting place. When for us, if you're thinking about starting a class or whatever it is, you want to use the homeschool house. If you want to do it in your own house, there's different rules that actually apply to using the homeschool house versus doing a class in your own house. And they just have to like get with the webmaster and see if the house is available. And then the webmaster kind of like blocks that out so that they have the class for that period, or the house for that period. For me, I knew I had to find a space that was big enough. And so we actually right now we have a great relationship with the person that runs spaces, for lack of a better term, on the base. And so able to help us find a space to rehearse in. And then we actually end up going to another base to perform because they have a working theater that we can use. The base that we have got rid of their theater a couple of years ago, and so it's been a challenge, but that's okay. I'll take a challenge.
Okay.
If I can add one more thing about
Yeah.
the structure, we have steering committee meetings that at the beginning of the end of this year, we'll have a steering committee meeting or two that structure the upcoming year. So people can propose ideas. It's voted on, discussed whether or not this is already being done, whether we have the time, the energy to put towards another, and what their budget is. And so they propose a budget. And then those are voted on, and we have a finance committee that's, but that's something that develops over time, I guess, if your group gets big enough. I'm sure there's also most groups would have a finance committee, and because you have to cover insurance when you're at a parish school. So we meet at the parish, and then we do our dramas. We do our big drama stuff at our home here, because we happen to have an outdoor event kind of space and a stage for the outdoor dramas.
Neat.
But yeah, so I think it's similar in that you have a voting, you have a, presenting of ideas at one time throughout so it's not changing all the time throughout the year. But we're fortunate to have most of our activities meeting on Fridays, except for civics, which meet on Thursday nights, because a lot of the parents that are involved that are attorneys can't meet except at night.
Right.
And then our special events are on weekends and at event spaces.
Beautiful. That's amazing. Go ahead.
Have you ever had to fire, or has your group had to fire a family basically, or to ask them, how does that work when you don't have this clear, I'm in charge of this, but somebody is disrupting?
Oh, we have a coordinator. We have a coordinator, and then the general coordinator also has the advisory board. We've had to ask families not to return that have been proselytizing to other faiths vocally, and we've had to ask parents to not return that have been used corporal punishment at our events. That's not okay. Most things that I created the advisory panel back when I was general coordinator. I moved out of that about 4 years ago. I'm still on the advisory panel, but I'm not the general coordinator anymore. I aged out, gray hair. I aged out of having any children that I homeschool, but I'm still doing the drama program, and I'm still on the advisory panel. But we have an advisory panel, and I established it because I no longer wanted the burden of having to make these very difficult decisions on my own. And so I created a panel of different aged parents that I could trust, that we could talk about things, because not everything, at some point, these families have to trust that the advisory panel and the general coordinator is doing the things in their best interest without having to know everything. There's some private things that go on, like no one else needs to know. And we just handle it. And if you question why our guidelines are now 3 pages long, every single guideline is a response to something that has come up. We do not want a long list of rules, but we need to protect and to keep everyone safe, and including ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's hard lessons learned. Didn't even know we needed to address that, and here we are. Yes.
Didn't even know. Wow.
Yeah.
And if you think just because again, just because you're Catholic, you're homeschooled, you got a gazillion kids, and the mother's on board or the father's on board, it doesn't mean the other one won't sue you. And so you need to make sure, and it's not even just about the suing, which would dissolve the group immediately, right? It would be also about just keeping everybody safe. Number one, let's keep everybody safe and good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to swerve onto a negative topic, but you do have to, any organization like this, you have to be very careful.
Well, I think that's very valuable and important to know if you're even if you're starting with just one other family, or just to kind of have it somewhere on the radar screen. This is something, let's address some of these, let's set some standards, and then leave enough room to respond to something we cannot anticipate. But, yeah.
You know what you can't do? We've learned the hard way that you have to know exactly who is at every meeting.
Yep.
So we have the signups, we know who's in the building, we know exactly who is it, and we keep those records for years now.
Yeah.
Because something happened years ago and we were asked who was present. And we were able to provide pictures of parents there with their children. We were able to provide a list immediately of exactly who was present. And that that really saved us. So if you're having things in your home, make sure you have insurance to cover that. And if you're having things at other people's buildings, just it's a very litigious society. And it's also there's some dangers. You can't just have there's some groups that run on a general bulletin board, like a bulletin board, web bulletin board. We have a website, adorote.org. And there's a front screen, but then there's a private screen where only members can see when these things are going on, and they have to be members. For our drama, we get over 400 people a night to see our June musical. Those are family members and those are friends of family members. And the actual members of the group have to vouch for the behavior of the people they invite, because there's you just have to have control over some of these things.
Okay. I think for some folks more than others, the prospect of starting a group is like, yeah, I could do that. And others be like, oh no, I can't do that. So is there any other advice you want to offer to folks who are hoping to, maybe there's a group that they're wanting to join that has a lot of great things going on, like your groups do, or there isn't that opportunity. So they're thinking, well, I guess I'm gonna have to do this myself, or, hey, I can do this myself. Maybe let's reframe it. It's like, I could do this too, especially after hearing all this. Anything else you want to leave by way of advice or encouragement or cautionary info?
I would just say that people are welcome to contact me if they would like to talk about starting a group, and we could certainly share some of the guidelines that we found important, so that you don't have to learn the hard way of what needs to be part of the structure, or what's worked and what hasn't worked over the years. And I would also be open to things not always being the same, things being different and so you have to let some things go that have been wonderful, and you wish, oh, that was so great for my kids, I wish that was still. Maybe it's just time, you got to let go. It was wonderful, but then you got to let it go and call on the strengths of the parents that are there.
Okay. Your website that you mentioned, we will link that in our show notes. It's inspiring to look at the list. You can see some of the activities that are offered. And then after that, you need to be a member to progress any further beyond that to, any further more detailed information. But just to see what all is offered is just impressive and encouraging. So that's certainly worthwhile to get some ideas. So Krysten, what about you? Anything else to leave with the listeners?
I don't know. My friends and I, we talk often, right? Like, that calling was put in your heart for a reason. So if you feel like, man, I want to start a group, or I feel like my kids could benefit from a group, explore that. Like, lean into it, because God will lead the way. God will open the doors that need to be opened. And maybe you have all these grand ideas and all these plans, and he's like, follow me. We're going to do one small thing at a time. Maybe we're just going to make sandwiches for the homeless. Like, let's do one thing at a time. And again, grow organically. Like, that is the best. Deedee's absolutely right. But follow that, lean into it, lean into what God is calling you to do, and reach out for help. There's, even hopefully you find that there are other groups willing to share their knowledge of how to run a group and all of that. But if not, you can always reach out to either of us. So,
Okay.
Thank you so much for having us, because I know a lot of people are, I think that it is really important to have those extracurriculars for the homeschoolers. And I love what Colby's doing now, because Dolores is really enjoying giving cooking classes or having a cooking club. And the reason I couldn't go back to my house is because she's probably on one of her classes and making a lot of noise, because we all know when she's on class, she has a lot of energy. So I really appreciate what Colby's doing, and I hope Colby will be around for a very, very long time.
yeah. Yes, they did. They recorded their variety show this morning. So Caesar, who is my son, died many times so that they could record it. It was hilarious.
That's great.
She's phenomenal. Seriously. Like, I could not ask for a better teacher for my fourth grader. He's all in to everything she has to say. And I think she's doing sauce or something like that. Like, that is culinary club.
Yeah, there are a lot of cool Kolbe clubs, all sorts of interesting
There
things going on.
are. And that's another great way to get involved. If you're not sure that you want to start your own, look at the different clubs and join a Kolbe club. They're on camera. There's a lot of them that meet. And maybe you're not ready to take that leap into doing, your own group. Join a Kolbe club to at least like get your feet wet.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, so our show notes are going to have a link to Deedee's group. I also have a link to the section of the Kolbe website to find out more about how to use Kolbe materials in a co-op or school setting. That'll be a conversation that some of our Kolbe folks would be happy to have with people who want to actually do the Kolbe academic subjects in that sort of setting. So that's a different animal than what we've been discussing here. Some other relevant links that have come up during the course of our conversation, some of the Kolbecast episodes and other links like that. Anything I've forgotten or that we didn't get to?
I do have a couple of families that I advise that do use, it's usually literature and English, use Kolbe's curriculum in their co-op, even in a co-op that's not all Kolbe families. And so that is something to consider if you want to do, and they like to do like the Socratic discussion with those literature course plans. And so if you ever have any questions, I don't run those co-ops, but I know families that use our curriculum for those purposes. And it's a great thing to be able to incorporate if that's something that you have a local co-op that's like, hey, do you want to teach a literature class? We're like, yes, but I'm going to use this curriculum. Is that okay? So
good deal. Well, it has been such a fun conversation visiting with you both again, and I'm inspired by your groups that you manage and know what great blessings are coming to so many from those. And I appreciate you sharing how you make those work and all the thoughts that you have given us. Thank you so much, Deedee and Krysten, for coming today. And we look forward to getting to talk with you again soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Subscribe to the Kolbecast on your favorite podcast app so that you don't miss an episode. And let us know how we're doing by leaving a rating or a review. And as always, feel free to email us at podcast@kolbe.org.
Mary, our Mother, pray for us. St. Maximilian Kolbe, St. Ignatius of Loyola, holy saints and angels, pray for us. Ad maiorem Dei gloriam.